So I recently watched an anime called Penguin Highway. I'm not as familiar with the genre, so I invited my friend Andy to review it along with me. So let's talk about it. The plot involves an inquisitive elementary school age boy in a town where penguins start to appear mysteriously, and him and his friends begin to investigate what is happening. Hi, my name is Sean and I love to talk movies too much. This is my buddy Andy.
And I like to talk about comics way too much.
Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at King's Comics here on YouTube.
So before we share our take on Penguin Highway, tell us what did you think about it down below in the comment section if you've seen it, or tell us your favorite anime down below in the comment section. With that said, let's get started talking about the good aspects of Penguin Highway. So, you're someone that's more familiar with the genre. What did you enjoy about Penguin Highway?
So, anime can have like a lot of tropes and be very weird, but I think I enjoyed overall, because, spoilers, there were some interesting stereotypical anime elements, we'll just say that.
That's not really a spoiler. It gets weird.
But we're going to go ahead and say I really like this kind of narrative interwoven into it about maturity and just the idea of you can have this ideal of what you want to be when you grow up, but the actual aspect of maturity is this 1-2 punch about like the elements you have to deal with.
Wait, and so back to, we watched
Spirited
Away.
Yes.
And that one's very metaphoric.
Yes.
And so you can interpret things in different ways. I'm not like that. I'm not a metaphor type of guy.
Yep.
And so this is a much more grounded, straightforward character arc about growing up, about first love, first romance, the awkwardness of kids discovering their feelings for the opposite sex.
Yes.
It's all very straightforward in the human aspect of it. Now, there's the wild, wacky side to the story that does take place inside of it, but the themes about coming of age, those sides, it's very normal type things that people experience to a weird degree. Like, the big joke between us has been that there's a big plot line about the boy discovering that girls have boobs.
Yes.
And it's not really a sexualization, but it is a little bit of a he's like obsessed with them because he discovered that they're a thing.
Well, and I think that's also interesting. I was thinking more about that, and he comes from it from a very analytical perspective where obviously he's a young boy. He's kind of discovering his sexuality, his maturity, right? But he's not really processing it like that so much, just as something he likes, so it's something he observes. Which was a very weird way to put it.
It's very awkward. It's not something you would see like in any Hollywood movie. They wouldn't have this sort of plot line. And it doesn't go like weird in the actual pit. It doesn't anything like that. But it is about a elementary school 4th grade boy or whatever that's obsessed with girls' boobs.
Yes. And I guess that's part of what I meant about my earlier point about these ideas of maturity, right? Because especially with a lot of content you see, right? It might not be animated, but you have a lot of sexualization and how that plays into being a man or being a woman, in society. So the idea that him having to face a lot of harsher topics about feelings, about like expectations, about just the hardcore truths of reality and interacting with people makes these boob jokes actually kind of make sense with his expectation of that being an element of adulthood.
Yeah. And another thing that I enjoyed about it, there's a nice steady stream of jokes.
Yes.
There's a joke about once every couple of minutes.
Yes, it was actually really comedic, and it felt like earnest comedy, because it's just kids being kids. There's a little bit there's bullying in it. I mean, and you've got some good Saturday morning cartoon stuff, Saturday morning special stuff in there, but it felt like I was consistently laughing and consistently finding something funny going on, even if it was kind of a background thing. It just kept coming.
Right. And different types of humor, too, because some of it is about this weird little kid. Some of it's penguins being cute and falling over into water. And so touching on a bunch of different things.
Actually, we should probably kind of touch on a little bit of synopsis. We didn't do that. So in this movie, you've got this boy. I think he's Aoyama. I'm not great with pronouncing Japanese names. Either way, this really precocious kid who just likes science, but then out of nowhere, these penguins just start appearing in droves in his town. And you have no idea why, but this movie centers on the mystery of this as well as like just other weird
weird
stuff.
Things start happening. So as the movie goes along, it gets kind of weirder. And so it starts off like the first 10 minutes is totally normal, and you're like, wait, those are penguins? What are penguins doing here? And then 30 minutes in is like, okay, penguins are just appearing. And then by an hour, you're like, oh, this is very sci-fi. Okay, it's a sci-fi type deal. And then by the last 30 minutes, it's just bonkers. It's just fully crazy anime spectacle weirdness.
Yes, and that's also something interesting is like, it just like seems to like go exponential or something, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it just
snowballs.
Gets 0 to 11 very quickly when the weirdness gets going.
Yes.
Any other final positives on this one?
Just very much that I liked all the interaction. The kids felt like kids to me.
Yeah.
Like, even with that was the beauty of it, is you have this precocious, problem-solving, scientific, analytical kid, but he's still very much an awkward kid, and he very much doesn't understand people's feelings or like thought processes outside of his own. He thinks he does, but I enjoyed that element of all these children still feeling like children.
The jealousy between them, different people have crushes on different people.
And popularity battles, bullying. Like,
and then like the bully is picking on the girl and was like, why, if he likes her, why is he picking on her? Because that's because little boys don't know how to relate to girls properly.
Literally a question the main character asks in the movie is you have the one kid who like realizes it, and it's like, the kind of wimp, like the wimp of all wimps is the one who's like, oh yeah, he has a crush on her, and the main character's just like, well, why would you pick on someone if you like them?
All right, so from there, let's move on to the negative, the bad aspects of this film. The big one for me is that everything in the movie felt, I don't know, 10% too long, 25% too long.
You told me that when we walked out of the theater, and I actually hadn't viewed it that way because I watch a lot of anime, and like when you put it that way, a lot of anime can do that too, where it kind of drags on for better and worse.
Yeah.
Right. But
and what I mean by that, it's not like the middle dragged, it's not like the end dragged. I mean, every single scene in it felt like it went on 10-15% too long.
So like it was cumulative, like it just like added up, and then
and like a scene would start and I'd be like, okay, this is pretty funny, this is kind of cute. Wait, it hasn't ended yet? And the next scene, oh, this is kind of cute, this is kind of fun. Wait, it hasn't ended yet? Oh, this is kind of exciting. I like where this is going. We're still doing this? Every scene, it felt like could have just been trimmed a little bit. You cut 15, 20 minutes off the movie, and it's just a real quick moving, funny, weird coming of age anime saga.
And actually, this is a trope I was reading about. This is going to sound weird. I think it can be done kind of poorly, right? So Hayao Miyazaki, the director of Spirited Away, and like one of the most famous anime directors of all time, he had this concept that he likes to call, I think it's Ma, which is kind of just these lingering events that happen, that are like just part of life. Something doesn't always need to be happening, and that's like what Ma is. Like when you're riding on a train and you sigh, it's not contributing to action, but it's this very human thing.
Yeah.
Which also kind of sucks because it can make things drag on.
Right. That's the stuff that, Hollywood just cuts all that. We don't need to go to the bathroom. We don't need to stop to get a drink of water. We just cut through to all the action. People walk into rooms, they don't say hello, and then they leave without saying bye because that's very boring cinema.
Right. I would actually argue Quentin Tarantino kind of does that a little bit, like these kind of naturalistic quirk things.
He does, but he's his own deal.
Right.
Other negatives.
I've got this, and trust me, animation takes a lot of time. My brother is going to school for it, animation, graphic design. That being said, I didn't like how much CGI was in the film. It felt, because look at, like, when we watch Spirited Away, and, like, some movies, you can tell that things are, like, painted in the background, or you can tell, like, they are intentional about making branches move and things like that. And, like, it just felt like they were using so much CGI to, like, kind of get out of having to actually illustrate.
And when you can see it, like it's the sort of thing that, when they first did it, that stuff in Aladdin 25 years ago, it was like, oh wow, this is cool, but we're not there anymore. Like it's like right now when you're watching a hand-drawn animation and then it's like, doing this CGI background behind hand-drawn people, it's like, it's distracting. It pulls you out of it.
Yes, and even then, right, we go into the idea of, so there was a little bit of CGI in Spirited Away, right? Like when they're flying away from the house in the woods, the house is like CGI, computer generated, but one, that's a very hard angle to animate and illustrate, but two, that movie was like from the 90s. So they were still experimenting.
It's almost 20 years old.
Yes, but this is a movie from like 2018, 2019. I feel, especially when you have like top-down views on like his room and all that felt like that could have easily been illustrated, as opposed to just having like a CGI layout for like desks and books and shelves and all that.
All right, real quick, before we share our final scores and summaries on this one, tell us what you thought about it, or remember to tell us what your favorite anime is. Okay, What's your final kind of summary of your take on this one as the fan of the genre?
Well, I gotta admit, I really liked it. A lot of my films, my kind of top 3 people I like to watch are Satoshi Kon, Makoto Shinkai, and Hayao Miyazaki. Actually, I'm going to be doing some videos about this on my channel, but I say that because those 3, when you talk about anime and you want to show anime to a friend, those are typically what you go with. I mean, some of these guys have movies so influential, they've inspired Darren Aronofsky and Christopher Nolan. That being said, this movie kind of fell short of that kind of benchmark, that standard, because it felt like a good coming-of-age story, but it's also based on a light novel. It's based on a pre-existing work.
Yeah.
So things can kind of suffer from that when you're doing an adaptation, especially when it's an Eastern, not really translates to Western movie very well. Yeah. I don't know.
So for me, as the non-anime fan that doesn't like metaphors as much, we watched Spirited Away about a month ago.
Yes.
I enjoyed this one more than Spirited Away because it's more straightforward. Because, like I said, everything we talk about Spirited Away, it's just so metaphoric and so weird that for me it's tough to connect with it. Whereas this one, it's weird, but it's all grounded to very literal human emotions and connections, so I could connect with it a little bit more. If I were to give a letter grade to this one, I'd give it a B.
It was a good film. Enjoyed it, but I'm saying B.
Going with the B, so we got 2 different Bs. Share your take down below or tell us your favorite anime. Thank you so much for watching. Check out his channel, King's Comics, and keep talking movies. Too much.